Welcome to One on One. I'm Steve Adubato. A little bit later on in this program, we have two guests. A little bit later on, you'll meet Walter Graham from the American Red Cross. But just you're looking at Walter Graham, the CEO, American Red Cross, Metropolitan, New Jersey. Good to see you, Walter.
Pleasure to be here, Steve.
American Red Cross does pretty amazing work.
It does, and part of the problem that we have is not many people realize the amount of work that we do and the degree of services that we provide right here in the state of New Jersey to the citizens of New Jersey.
We should also make it clear, though, Walter, that there are other chapters all over the country and in many other states that we are seen in. Your colleagues are watching here as well. So do us all a public service and explain to us what the American Red Cross is beyond, hey, I got to give some blood, call the American Red Cross.
Right. Well, the American Red Cross is there's 21 chapters here in New Jersey. And it's a community-based organization. It's governed by local boards of directors, and we really try to respond to the needs in the local communities. I think probably the thing that we do most and best across the state is respond to residential fires, which are disasters that are happening in individual lives. I know in my chapter in Metropolitan New Jersey, which covers Essex and Passaic counties and part of Hudson counties, we respond to about 300 fires each year, and that number is 1,800 across the state, where we find in the 300 fires that we respond to about 2,000 people on the street. The Mount Prospect fire in Newark recently is a good example of that. 61 people and 5 buildings burned, and we essentially are called in when they don't have any place to go. We make sure they have shelter, food,
how do you do that?
New clothes. We have a staff disaster action team. Core of staff members and a lot of volunteers that are assigned certain schedules and respond. These fires normally occur in the middle of the night or early morning or on the weekend, and we respond in, and we're called in by the fire department to make sure that the people are taken care of.
American Red Cross gets no government funding?
That's true.
What's up with that?
That's our number one myth that we have to combat. We're chartered by the Congress of the United States to do the disaster work and to do some of the work with armed forces.
Time out. Congress says, American Red Cross, this is what we expect you to do.
Correct.
Not getting any money.
That's correct. We're given the right to raise money in our local communities to do that work. And for example, in the Federal Emergency Response Plan that everybody's looking very closely at now since 9/11, there are 12 agencies named with primary responsibilities in that plan. 11 of them are federal agencies funded by the federal government. The 12th is the American Red Cross.
Wow.
Mostly volunteers, funded by donations. So there really is a misconception out there. We do not get any money from Washington to do the disaster work. We do not get any money from the National Red Cross to fund what we do here locally. My budget in the chapter, the Metropolitan chapter, is about $1 million a year in disaster work, and all that money must be raised locally from local donors.
Walter, what has changed? First of all, let's go back. September 11th, as we do this program, again, we'll repeat it, but we're doing it 6 months, almost 6 months to the day. Right. September 11th. How did September 11th change the American Red Cross? And then we'll talk about what's changed since then. How did the event change the organization?
Well, certainly it is a defining moment for the country, a defining moment for the American Red Cross, and a defining moment for the chapters here in New Jersey. The New York, Lower Manhattan got a lot of attention, but the chapters in New Jersey did respond over there. Our chapter was in there within hours of, we were there before noon that morning at ground zero, helping the victims come out.
Were you physically there?
Yeah, I was on September 13th yes.
Before you go any further, just talk to us about that.
Very moving experience. Something that, you watched it on TV. I was watching live as the second plane came into the tower, but there was a certain detachment from the reality of it. And I frankly, when I went over there on that Thursday, on September the 13th, I was not prepared for the impact it would have on me. To come around the tunnel cut there on the viaduct going down into the Lincoln Tunnel and to see the New York skyline, which for the past 30 years or so, defined by the Twin Towers, just to see that smoke rising. Tremendous impact, emotional impact that really caught me by surprise. And to move down in the Red Cross vehicle down into Lower Manhattan, beautiful sunny day, midday, abandoned streets except for the National Guard. Checkpoints going in. It was almost like a science fiction movie. And then to go down there and actually experience in those early days, the feel of the place, the touch, you know, the dust was still settling. It had a taste to it, had a smell to it, it had a certain aura about it because of the noise of all the generators and the looks on people's faces as the rescuers tried to work hard to recover. So very, very impactful, and something that we were concerned about the people who did work down there for extended periods of time, the post-traumatic stress kind of thing that could occur.
I didn't mean to have you go off like that, but I don't know that many people who've actually been there, and I felt compelled to ask. But you were talking before I interrupted you in that way about how it's changed the organization.
Yeah, it certainly was a defining moment. Again, it was the single biggest thing that the American Red Cross was ever asked to respond to. We're just now wrapping up 6 months later the national kind of teams that came in to handle that. We did put 51,000 volunteers in Manhattan over the last 6 months that volunteered on a 2 to 3 week schedule each. Came in, spent their 2 or 3 weeks, and went out. Some amazing numbers that are associated with that. 14 million meals were served in Lower Manhattan to both the rescue workers and the victims and the homeless that were made homeless by the collapse of and evacuation of their buildings. Mental health contacts, mental health sessions with more than 235,000 individuals where we sat them down for 15 minutes or more with a licensed professional who was volunteering, gave up his or her own personal income to volunteer into the city. Liberty Fund has distributed about $553 million to more than 51,000 families that were affected by the World Trade Center incident.
Blood, okay? Let's talk about it.
Okay.
In the beginning, major priority.
Yes.
Is it true that some of that blood, the way it was stored, was problematic?
Well, it wasn't problematic. I think in the beginning, if you remember back in those early days, September 11th, 12th, and 13th, we didn't know what was going to happen next. The Bush administration was telling us that, hey, something is going to happen, and they're still telling us something else is going to happen. We just had the March 5th issue of Time magazine come out where it talked about how in early October they thought that there had been a 10 kiloton nuclear device smuggled into Lower Manhattan. And so the American Red Cross at that point in time was geared up and like on a war footing. And we did make an appeal for blood. We're the only ones responsible for a nationwide blood system. Right. We collect more than 50% of the blood across the country. And we were asked to go from a 2-day blood supply up to a 10-day blood supply, which we did. And during the month of September, there was about a 33% extra, I don't want to use the word outpouring, but donors coming in. Now, in the end, thank God we didn't need all of that blood, but some of the reports of blood being thrown away are exaggerations. We do, in the normal course of events, have to discard about 5% of what's collected because it doesn't pass the final medical screenings and manufacturing losses and whatnot. 3% of the blood we collected during that period of time got outdated, has a shelf life, okay? But even that blood, we were able to take the product's plasma from, and it was only the red blood cells that were actually discarded. Now, since that time, you know, we're back down to a 2 or 3 day supply of blood, and that's a dangerous position for us to be in.
So people need to give.
Yes,
again.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Let me try this. You said you wanted to talk about preparedness.
Yes.
What does that mean? Are we prepared, and what are we prepared for, and what aren't we prepared for?
Well, as a country, again, we're being told over and over again that it's not over, that we're still expecting something to happen, and even in this Time article that I just talked about, administration officials are saying something else is going to happen, and that something else that happens may, in fact, be much worse than what we saw with the World Trade Center. Now, there is a certain go back to business as usual. We've been encouraged to do that, and that's important for us to do. But at the same time, there is a need to be prepared on a whole lot of different levels. Individuals need to be prepared. They need to have first aid skills, perhaps, and CPR skills. Individuals need to prepare their families. I mean, a lot of us have emergency plans that if our house is on fire, we go to a neighbor's house. But do we have a plan that says, if I can't get home, if we all can't get home, where should we meet? And that's important to talk with your family. Do our businesses have a plan that if our location is shut down, do our employees know what to do? And then, of course, there's a Red Cross. on September 11th, thousands of people instinctively turned to the Red Cross to volunteer to give blood, looking for help. And the same thing will happen if something other event occurs, some other terrorist attack, nuclear, biological, chemical. People are going to turn to the American Red Cross. And the American Red Cross must be prepared to handle that kind of an incident.
Walter, hold your thought right there. I promise I'll give you a chance to finish up. Walter Graham, the American Red Cross, all kinds of things you thought you knew but aren't exactly right. Stay with us. We'll be right back. Welcome back. Walter, let me ask you. I said to you during the commercial break that I was uncomfortable hearing what you just said. I wasn't prepared to hear you talk about it in that way. Typical reaction?
Typical, very typical. And I find myself, I don't want to think about it either, and we shouldn't be focused on it all the time, 24 hours a day. We need to, have a business usual kind of outlook on things, but we do need from time to time to think about it, to put the proper plans in place, to make sure that organizations like the Red Cross are funded, that we will be able to respond. A part of our problem in the post 9/11 environment is raising money. A tremendous outpouring support toward the victims in New York, but it's kind of dried up the charitable dollar, especially in North Jersey, and United Way agencies and other nonprofits are suffering because of that. Now our income is falling. At the same time, our demand on our services are increasing because we continue to respond to those 300 fires a year. We continue to need to be prepared for the coastal storms. El Nino is back. That's right. That was in the news this week. We have the 800 families in New Jersey that we are going to be working with for up to 5 or 10 years, victims of the World Trade Center disaster, and we have this case for weapons of mass destruction preparedness. We need to be ready as an organization to handle that if something happens.
You're doing tremendous work, and I just only hope that all of us will continue to respect and appreciate it and give more. All the best. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Steve. Thanks for having me.